Hello and welcome to Brimwood Farm. I love this time of year, and I think as growers sometimes we think of this time of year as the end of the season, but actually it's just the beginning, and that's why I love it. And I've just been joined by some little oinkers. Should you be here? No, but you're super cute, so we're not going to chase you away, although you've lost a buddy. There's 5 of you. Where's number 6? And autumn has cyclamen and mushrooms and lovely crunchy leaves and these fallen crab apples all over the site that have been munched up by the piglets. And the piglets are basically free ranging, as you saw. And hopefully the majority of the sheep are pregnant. And so as much as the season is resetting and some stuff is ending its cycle, lots of stuff is starting the cycle. And again, for growers like you and me, the garden is only really just getting going now in October, November, ready for next year. So we're in the market garden, which is now largely coming to the end, although I do have 1 week of my CSA left. And I have to say that I really loved doing my veg box scheme, so community supported agriculture scheme this year. Last year was the first year I really ran it, and every weekend when I was picking was stressful. I didn't know what was happening. This year, I loved going and picking on a Sunday and a Monday morning for the boxes. And here are some of the boxes throughout the spring and the summer. So I tried my best within possibilities not to have the same thing in the box week on week on week, especially when it comes to things like courgettes and patty pans. People don't want them every week, so I tried to change it up where I could and offer a variety. And we've certainly now come to kind of the end stage of the season. Unfortunately, the sheep got in. They haven't been in for weeks, but they got in about a month or so ago, and they took out all of my winter leafy crops. So my kale and my chard was done for. And so I've had to rely on some root crops for my latest CSA. So we've still got some turnips, we've still got some carrots, there are spring onions still in the ground. And then I'm also adding some microgreens in and some edible flowers, some of this year's pulled garlic and onions, just to bulk up the last box of the season. And you can see that there's still quite a lot of weeds in the garden, from small ones that are actually the result of this year's weed seed blowing in, so tiny little nettles and thistles, but these can all be weeded out, to bigger things that have actually gone to seed, and they're the big no-no really, like this. So this has obviously gone to seed and it's going to spread these seeds everywhere, but the joyous thing about this time of year, of course, is that it is actually now relatively cold to stop weed growth. Yes, it stops your crop growth, but it also stops weed growth. So it means you can clear a patch and actually it will stay relatively clear. Unlike when you try and weed something in the middle of summer and within a week it looks like you never weeded it at all. So as I strip beds, I'm weeding them out and then I'm going and putting straw on them. So this is straw from the barn. It's straw that the sheep have been on, or Hyacinth, my sow, has been on, because she's currently in the barn away from the piglets. So it's really nice straw that's been turned a lot. It's got poo in it, and it's going to just work as a weed suppressant membrane through the winter and also break down. I'm not sure whether I might actually have to strip it off come spring, or whether I might be able to plant straight into it and keep it as a mulch or a weed suppressant. It might be a hiding place for mollusks, slugs and snails, so I'm unsure quite how I'm going to tackle it in spring, but it's just adding stuff to the soil. In previous years I haven't done that enough. I need more and more organic matter, because even after 3 years of being here and working the soil in the market garden, the soil was so degraded of nutrients before. It's taken a lot more organic matter than I actually thought to get it back, because I don't rotivate it, it's not turned over, it's more or less no dig, which means I've got to put a lot of organic matter on top. So I'm doing that as I strip beds. We've still got some spring onions in this bed, hence why it's not cleared. There are also, this is the turnip bed, again not cleared. This was lettuce and beetroot, so that is cleared and almost covered down to the bottom. These two beds, this is fennel, which I never actually managed to harvest, but it's actually shooting up all of these little shoots, which they smell aniseedy. It's lovely. But I've got I've got a few carrots in here, and I've got onions, so these are next year's onions. And you might remember when I went to buy my onions for this year, they had sold out of small amounts, so I had to get a huge bag, and I put them in dry storage with what I didn't use, and they actually started to rot. So I put them in a lot earlier. I wouldn't normally put my onions and garlic in till January. Put them in a lot earlier. So it's kind of a test, but they've started to establish themselves quite nicely. Obviously, what we want to do is for them not to get frosted. So they might, I don't know whether they'll work or not. And then there is another little lot of bed here of tiny ones. It's an experiment. They are in very early, and there's a lot of winter we're still not officially in winter. So we'll see how that goes. This area is covered in silage plastic to kill off the weeds. So I trimmed it earlier in the year, covered it in silage plastic to kill off everything that was there, uncovered it to allow that seed bed to then regerminate, and now covered it again. So hopefully that will kill off the weed seeds that had blown in. But harking back to what I said previously, I will need to be putting in a lot of organic matter on top of that, because it's just not going to be nutrient rich enough. Even from all the rotted weeds and things that were on top, they don't make enough for your plants to thrive. So we'll have to be reinvigorating that. And then down in the polytunnel, I've got loads of seeds on the go. So the polytunnel is a complete mess, and it's basically over. I stripped the last of the tomatoes for yesterday's CSA box. There won't be any for next week. So the old cucumber plants, the old tomato plants, the old peppers and aubergines, they need to start coming out so I can start to put in the winter stuff. And when I say winter stuff, I mean some mizuna, some mustards. I've got some chard and lettuce and spring onions on the go. I did actually sow some spinach, but I left in the polytunnel. It got way too hot, didn't germinate very well, so I started another batch outside, and as you can see, they have done much better in terms of germination rate. And all these little plants are going to be put directly into the ground in the polytunnel, and they will sit here happily over winter, and on those slightly warmer days they will grow a little bit, and next year when the days start to lengthen again, they'll be already in the ground, and so they will start to grow vigorously. And I found that really helped me this spring with the CSA. I had loads of early, I had some sugar snap peas, I had lettuces, I had chard, even before the CSA boxes started. So I was already being able to sell ad hoc to customers who just wanted to pick up a few salady, leafy green things. And then when it came to the first few weeks, I had stuff ready to go that had been planted months in advance. And there's a definite joy of coming in the middle of winter when the days are like 6 hours long and it's all a bit grey and all a bit depressing, coming down to the polytunnel and seeing there's stuff, there's greenery, it's growing. And that's what I mean by the fact that the season, most of us, a lot of growers, kind of think, oh, it's autumn now, shut up shop, I'll start thinking about it again in January, February, March when I start to sow seeds. But actually, the one thing, or one of the many things actually I should say, that I've learned from being here and growing this for more than myself, for lots of other people, is that the growing season starts kind of now. And even the flower season for next year also starts now, because in that polytunnel I've got a few biennials growing already. So I've got some larkspur on the go, I've got some honesty, I've got some sweet peas and some cornflowers. And then out in the beds we still have dahlias flowering. So I'm selling the odd bouquet, although they're mostly now over. But the thing I realised the other day is that the ranunculus and the anemones, which will flower in spring, are actually starting to grow now. They're actually using these last few weeks of warmth and longer hours of daylight to get some green leaves on them. And they're cold hardy, certainly for here when we don't get loads of snow. I might cover them in just some cloth just to keep the worst of the frost and stuff off them, but they're putting up growth now, and that growth will go into the roots, and that will fuel the flower buds for next spring. So that's also super exciting to see. Another thing I've been really happy with, remember those horrible, almost dead statice? Well, they've ended up trumps and actually ended up thriving, as has the Eryngium or sea holly, which is a perennial fantastically, and that has actually been multiplying and setting out roots and producing loads and loads and loads of these beautiful blue little thistleheads. The only slight downside is when you dry them, they lose the blueness, which is a bit sad, but they're still lovely to have, and you can put them in arrangements or keep them for dried. It's honestly just really nice just to stand here in the garden and look and see the berries and the wild plums in the tree and listen to the birds and look across to the tree line where the colours are starting to change and the leaves are starting to fall. And just being super grateful for what this year had, and I've just spotted that corner of my eye. Super grateful for growing these amazing stripy courgettes, which are safari. I think it's called safari. It would make sense with the stripes, right? So I hope you're all keeping well and enjoying the season. It's beautiful. I'm loving it, and I'm very excited for all those seedlings and for next year's veg box scheme.